Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Rita's Nursery. We are actually pre-recording this because out here, as you can see, in this beautiful woodland area, we're not getting much of a signal and we can't really trust Facebook Live to go over like it should. So, I apologize that we are pre-recorded, but that's the way it's going to work out here in the woods. And I still encourage you to leave your questions in the comments or any comments you may have, and Rita and I will try to answer them for you as we go down the comments. So here's Rita's beautiful nursery, and now let's go over and meet Rita.
Good morning, and thank you for coming to my little hobby nursery out here in the woods. My name is Rita Grant, and I am a Hernando County Master Gardener as well as a member of the Florida Native Plant Society, two awesome organizations to get information from. I specialize in native plants and invasives, so if anyone has their questions, please let us know. We're going to talk today about some specific native plants that are perfect for hummingbirds and butterflies. Some plants are for both, some are just for the butterflies, and I'll tell you which ones are which. Right plant, right place is the most important thing that you can learn, especially as your zone. We are here in zone 9A, so I don't try to plant anything that's for zone 10 because it wouldn't survive. Right plant, right place just means if you have a plant that needs to be moist and in the sun, that's where it needs to be, not in the shade, or you won't get any flowers. It's important to have nectar and host plants in your garden. A complete butterfly garden supports the entire life cycle of having both host and nectar plants. For each butterfly the gardener wants to attract, and you'll get to see their whole life cycle, which is very rewarding. Leave some of your weeds in the yard as well. If you have some of that beautiful Bidens with the white flowers, I know it grows everywhere. Pull some of it out, but leave it because the butterflies nectar on that constantly. All different butterflies as well.
Yes, Rita, I have that. We call it Spanish needle.
Yes.
And I do let it because I can't bring myself to take it all away because the butterflies love it so much.
Yeah, they
You
do.
do get those little stickers on you, but they don't hurt. Just pull them off.
They do, and if you get them on your dog, just brush them off.
Yeah.
That's all you really have to do. The other one is mock bishop weed. It's in the carrot family, I believe, and when it comes up, it has these tiny little white flowers on it, and the black swallowtail caterpillars adore it. They will eat it to the ground, and when you see their caterpillars, that is something else that's very rewarding. It's this brilliant green and black. They're just gorgeous. Leave out some fermenting fruit if you can for the butterflies as well. Red spotted purple and question mark butterflies really like that. So if you have a banana that's gone beyond its time and you don't really feel like making banana bread, just leave it outside for the butterflies and they'll appreciate it. You should never put any insecticides on your plants. And when you go to the big box store to buy them, try and read the label and ask questions and make sure that they they haven't been treated. Otherwise, you're condemning your poor caterpillars, and that's not a good thing. As well as nectaring on the plant is not a good thing when it's covered with sprays.
Some of them from the big box stores have been systemically treated so that they make the trip well and still look good when it gets to the store. So that's a huge issue. Yeah, butterflies, pollinators, and pesticides just don't mix at all.
No, they don't. That's why when you walk into the big box store, everything's blooming like beautiful. Well, that's because they've been fed to within an inch of their life so that they'll look beautiful. So just do a little more research and you'll end up saving yourself some money, which is important too. Plants, like I already said that, plants purchased at a big box store with a pot that says Florida friendly does not mean it is a native. Okay, sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, and sometimes those plants are really friendly and they end up being an invasive in your yard.
Yeah, sometimes they're not even Florida friendly. Not only not native, they're not Florida friendly.
Right.
There's a little bit of difference between a capital F and a capital F and a dash in between with a trademark sign. That's the educational program that we bring you from the University of Florida. Other people have taken it, changed it a little, and made it like a brand name. I've seen invasive plants in pots that say Florida friendly.
Yes, especially those darn Mexican petunias.
Yes.
But we're not going to talk about those today. Hummingbird feeders should be used as a supplemental for feeding your hummingbirds. I have plants all through the nursery and in my yard that they come and nectar on, and it's much easier. I don't have to clean anything because you have to keep those feeders really clean. And there's also one that causes injury to the hummingbirds. They can get their beaks caught, and it's really sad. So if you can, put flowers out, and then you can enjoy them and not have to worry about washing those feeders. The first plant that we're going to talk about is butterfly weed. I have 3 different species here right now. I only have a picture out there of one of them. That's the butterfly Asclepias tuberosa. It's 1 foot and 1.5 feet tall, full sun, and well-drained sandy soil. They love sandy soil. They don't like a lot of water. The flowers are beautiful. No pictures do them justice. They bloom summer in Central Florida. Nectar and host plant to our beautiful monarch butterflies. And you can propagate them from seed or plant divisions. And they're really easy to grow.
I have some of Rita's in my yard. They're still in pots right now, but they're
That's
about
good.
as big as these ones. too.
Yep. And they really, most plants, I have to say, really don't like to spend their entire lives in pots.
Right.
It pinches their roots. It's like wearing shoes that are too small for you. So I usually try and encourage people, get them in the ground as soon as possible. This one is a swamp milkweed. This is Asclepias perennis. It has the name swamp milkweed. This is also called a swamp milkweed, but this one has reddish flowers, and it's really pretty. I have a couple of tall mother plants over there.
If it's called swamp milkweed, what does that tell us?
Yes. We'll wait for someone to respond. It needs lots of water. This one, the perennis, I find that it needs to be moist. It doesn't have to be really wet. So you could get along with that. And just giving it some extra.
And these 3 are basically, of the 21 native milkweed species in the state, these 3 are the ones that are pretty much commercially available at native plant nurseries or native plant sales. The others are just so difficult to propagate that it makes them not easily commercially available.
They are some of them, and I was very successful this year in growing them. All 3 species, and actually one other which is called world milkweed that has white flowers on it, and I have some of that as well.
Can you tell us about the Cursavica, the tropical milkweed?
Tropical milkweed is not really a good thing to have in your yard. If you do have it, and I do have some growing in the ground still, you need to cut it back. It causes problems for the monarchs. It makes them not want to migrate because they have a food source. It also causes it's a disease. We call OE for short because I cannot say the name.
Don't look at me, neither can I.
No, I can't get any help from Lily. But yeah, it is a disease, and it's best to research it and see exactly what it does. What I do is all the ones that are growing up in the nursery, in the ground in the nursery, I cut them back at the end of September or the middle of October, so that persuades the monarchs to not come to my yard anymore.
So what's the problem with them not migrating? What if we want them to stay around our yard?
We can if we live further south, where there is a group of them that do live further south, but it gets cold here. And the problem is people are rearing them inside little cages and stuff. And what happens is they release them in January and February when sometimes it's very cold. And there's nothing for them to eat out there. So they're really not starting out all that well. You can't release a butterfly when it's that cold out.
Right.
It just isn't good. Research the species that you do see come to your yard. The website that you look at should be a Florida website, because if you get one for Massachusetts, it's not going to give you the same information that you'd use for down here. If you know the ones that do come, then you can put in the plants for them.
You're a Massachusetts butterfly that has come
I
down.
am from Massachusetts. I'm sure my accent will come out at least once or twice today. Okay, the next one we're going to talk about is porterweed. This is the native porterweed. The non-native gets about 3 or 4 feet tall, and the butterflies love it just as much. It's beautiful, the little purple flowers, and they bloom a couple a day, and then the next day there'll be 2 more, and the next day 2 more, so it really lasts for a long time. It likes sun, but part shade in the afternoon, they may fail. They'll not fail, but they'll
Wilt.
just fade away.
Wilt,
and
yes.
got to give them some water.
In the morning, give them water.
In the morning,
Yes.
water them, but just keep them in. I keep mine in shade for the afternoon.
So the difference between the native porterweed and the non-native is the non-native gets bigger? Is
The
that
non-native gets much bigger and spreads like crazy. This one grows to only about 1.5 feet, and it just kind of leans over and it just spreads, so it's kind of like a cluster when it gets out there. It's a plant for many butterflies, nectar on this plant. And it's very easy to propagate from seed. What you have to do is you have to wait until this turns brown. This is the flower stalk. Wait till it turns brown, cut it off of the plant, and then you'll find the seeds. You twist it, and the seeds will pop out. And then you can plant them somewhere else in your yard. Or you can leave it on there and it will do it for you. It depends on what you want to do with the seeds, if you want to put them someplace else.
or let them decide where they want to be.
Let them decide, and there is some coming up in the nursery because the seeds did pop off. I get very lazy gardening, so I let the plants do it for me. And in return, I give them food and I give them sunlight. And okay. The next one, this one in back, is called Wand Goldenrod. It's one of my favorites. It has basal leaves, and the flower stalk, when it comes up, it will be about 4 feet tall. The flowers are yellow. It blooms late summer into fall, so you have that beautiful color in your landscape late in the season. Nectar plant, again, for many different butterflies, as well as some moths. The polka dot wasp moth loves to nectar on this.
So it would be a good idea to have that if you also have a oleander that you would rather the oleander caterpillar not eat because they become the polka dot wasp moth.
They do. They are so pretty. There's also a scarlet wasp moth that's really pretty that gets on this too.
But they don't sting you.
No, they absolutely don't. And some people can't believe it's a moth. They think it's a different type of butterfly because it's so pretty.
It does. Yeah, it's like black with white spots. Is that, or it has red spots too?
It's actually, the body is like red and blue.
Yeah.
Brilliant blue, and the wings are clear. It's a beautiful little moth. You can propagate this from seed or plant division. I always encourage people to try and propagate their own plants because it's very rewarding when you do it, and it saves you money.
Yes.
I'm on the saving money kick. But it makes more sense to do it that way if you can do it for yourself. The next one is called scorpion's tail. I love this plant. It turns into a little shrub, which one came up in the nursery all by itself, and I just leave it there. It's beautiful. It'll get about 3 feet tall. It likes full sun, sandy soil, white flowers that bloom year-round unless we have a frost. And it blooms the same as the porterweed. A couple of flowers a day will come out, and it's just so cute the way it's shaped like a scorpion's tail.
I have a very nice picture of one of yours, and I'll add it in the comments.
Oh, good. Okay.
A close-up of the flowers.
Yes. Nectar plant to many different butterflies. Also propagates from seed or seedlings. So when these are in the pot, my mother plant is in a huge pot, and the seeds fall into the pot, and they start to come up
Oh, nice.
in the pot. So I just have to take them out and pot them. I love that plant. It's really pretty, and it does spread. It can be a little weedy, so if you don't like something like that, but I love all the plants. They can do whatever they want, especially in my nursery.
Yes.
This one is called Southern Indigo Bush, Amorpha herbacea. It is really beautiful. It likes full sun. It gets up to 3 feet tall, sometimes more if it's really happy where it is. It likes dry, sandy soil. It does not like a lot of moisture. It will kill it. Blooms spring to summer. The flowers are a pale pink. It's a nectar plant for, again, many different butterflies. And it propagates easily from seed. It's a really pretty plant. Once it grows up, it's very feathery.
Yes.
I love those. It adds a little structure to your yard.
The indigo look there.
It does. It does. Next one is the maypop or passion vine.
Well, we know about this one.
It's a very aggressive vine, but it's a native plant, so we don't say it's invasive. We say it's pioneering.
That's right.
And it does go wherever it wants to. If you want to put some in your yard, you could put some in a really big pot, block the holes on the bottom so the roots can't get out, and you could grow it and let it grow up a tree, and it would be just as happy. Sun and pot shade, because it's the host plant to the Gulf fritillary and the zebra longwing. The Gulf fritillary lays its eggs on the sunny part of the maypop, and the zebra longwing lays its eggs on the shady part.
Okay, there was somebody who told me they just noticed that
Yeah.
anecdotally, so you're confirming
I
it.
do, because I have it growing, and that's what happens. The shady part has all the white caterpillars on it, and the sunny part has all the orange ones.
Okay, interesting. And
Yeah.
the zebra longwing is our state
Butterfly. Absolutely.
And there are non-native passion vine you can buy that you want to avoid. Twin flowers, the yellow and red ones, because those are truly invasive.
They are
These-
truly invasive,
yes.
and the nectar is it's 5 times more toxic than the maypop, and the caterpillars will die. If I've seen it happen, because I did buy the red passion vine because I thought it was beautiful, and I saw the egg. They were laying the eggs on it, and the next day, the next few days after it hatched out, they were all dead.
Oh,
So, they're saying that there's a new species of it out, but I wouldn't trust it. I will just use this one.
always
And-
best to go native. 'cause
Absolutely, that
Earth
and-
knows what she's doing.
And the corky stem passion vine is another one you can use. That's another native. This plant is also nectar for the hummingbirds. They come to them, all the flowers, all the time. It's
Got the
really cool
most-
to watch them.
I always say it looks like Dr. Seuss made that flower up.
It does, and it smells so pretty. And you can propagate that from seed or cuttings, or if it's coming up in the middle of your lawn, dig it up, get a little bit of the root,
Yeah.
put it in a pot, and it will grow, and then you can put it somewhere else.
Do they ever get fruit?
Get what?
Fruit?
Oh,
Passion
yes,
fruit.
they do get fruit, and the fruit can be used to make this passion fruit aid. It's really good. I've never made it. I have a friend who does all the cooking when we do a incredible edible program, and it's yummy. It's really yummy.
Okay, you just committed us to having to do an incredible
Incredible
edible.
edible. I know
Yeah.
who we have to call, so
Yeah.
don't worry about it. Okay, the next one. Oh, this is like a super plant. Tropical sage. 2 to 3 feet tall. I have some in the back butterfly garden that it's much taller than that.
Yeah.
And it loves pretty much any soil. It likes it sunny and shady. And always remember, oh, there's a big bee. You have to remember that most plants that like to bloom, you don't want to put them in too much shade because they need that sun to bloom. So you want to be careful.
Speaking of bees, these get the bumblebees, the long tongue bees that
Yeah.
go in those type of flowers.
Mhm. And the hummingbirds. I remember we had a plant sale once, and I took all of my tropical sage to sell it, and unfortunately,
Trying
the
to find
next
a bee.
day, the hummingbirds came around, and there was no
Oh,
flowers for them.
no.
So I never let that happen again, because I was really sad when I saw them, and they were like flying around like, where did they go? propagate from seed. Just let these little flowers dry out and the seeds pop off and they'll come up everywhere. This is a must for any butterfly garden.
And it's a must for me. I need to get more because I have a granddaughter named Sage.
Well, then you should go home with some today
Yes.
for that granddaughter.
Yes.
Okay, this is privet cassia. This gets 8 to 10 feet tall. Beautiful yellow flowers. Full sun and pot shade, so you can get a little shade in the afternoon. Sandy, well-drained soil. The yellow flowers come out most of the year, again, unless we have a frost, and then it will just go into little sleepy time before it comes back. It attracts mostly sulfur butterflies, the yellow ones. It's a nectar and host plant for the orange-barred sulfur and the cloudless sulfur. I've seen the orange-barred caterpillars and they are striking the color. They're really pretty. And you can propagate that from seed. There again, you can let the seeds fall off. And once they start to come up, if you want to put it somewhere else, you can dig it up or just spread the seeds out and they'll come up very easily. It's a really pretty plant.
Are there like invasive ones that look similar to this?
There's one that's a candlestick cassia.
Yeah.
It has huge leaves on it and thousands of seeds in each one of the pods, and it's horrible once you put it in. To get it out, it has a vast root system, so you have to really try and yank the whole thing out. And it's not any more popular with butterflies than the native species, which are much prettier, I think. That is an interesting Anyway.
Well, we're attracting the pollinators.
These are the ones that I specifically put out today. There are many, many more.
Oh, you didn't tell us about the firebush.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hopefully it didn't hear that.
Yeah.
Okay. The firebush, hummingbirds and butterflies. 6 to 10 feet tall, sometimes more. Sun, part shade in the afternoon if it can get it. Well-drained soil, doesn't like to sit in anything too wet. Orange-red tubular flowers are the perfect thing for the hummingbirds. They love it. This propagates from seed or cuttings. I particularly like doing it from seed because sometimes with cuttings, I have no luck with it. And if I say I can't grow it from a cutting, people will say, you can't. Well, I can't grow everything, but that's one of the things I would just rather do it from seed. And it's really pretty. The flowers, once they come out, are absolutely gorgeous. This little thing, it needs to go into the ground, and it'll probably get put in the ground in a couple of days.
This also causes some, some problems in the native plant community because there's a non-native. There is. And it's actually very hard to tell them apart. I don't know if it's a full non-native or is it a hybrid.
Yes, it's a problem. And everyone... Not everyone, but there are a few people who think that they're experts on picking out which is which. I can't tell the difference other than on the native, I've been told that there's 3 leaves in the whorl. Okay. There's 3 here. And on the non-native, there is 4. So if that's how you can identify it, that's fine. That's just a basic thing to think about.
But that particular non-native is not a problem plant, is it?
No, I've seen huge ones growing at the Master Gardener Nursery area, and they haven't spread anywhere. They're just beautiful, and there's butterflies and hummingbirds all over them.
Right.
Some of them you just have to say, okay, grow.
Yeah, because they're Florida friendly. Yeah.
They are. They are. For other types of plants, I put my foot down and I wouldn't put it in my yard if I really desperately had to. They're just too invasive. A quick story, I did try and grow the Mexican petunias. I never gardened until I moved to Florida, and I found them at the big box store. They were so pretty, and I put them in the ground and they looked beautiful. And then I joined the Native Plant Society.
and we're almost instantly kicked out, right?
No, I didn't say I had it in my yard, but someone did mention what a nasty plant it was. So the next day, I think it had been in for a couple of weeks or something, I pulled it out. But it kept coming back because any little piece of root that stayed
Yes.
regenerated, and it grew. So it took me 3 years to get rid of it. And plus, it's not really a good wildlife plant. You don't see that many butterflies come to it. And it will take over your landscape. And if you want to just have that, that's one thing. But I like a variety of plants because that way you have a lot of different butterflies coming in
Right.
to take advantage
The
of it.
pollinators need variety. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Diversity.
Yep, absolutely.
It's, you know, in every scientific everything, diversity is the key to a healthy system.
It absolutely is. I see that in the nursery because I have so many different plants, and there's something coming to every one of them.
I have a similar story about the Mexican petunia in that when I bought my house, the builder had already planted it. Just in these very small areas that were actually encased in cement in front of my garage.
Mm-hmm.
4 years it took me to pull all those
Yeah.
roots and tubers out.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's pretty, but it's not really a good plant to put in.
And you can find it in any big box store today.
Because people buy it. If you guys stop buying it, I know every time I go into one of the big box stores, they kind of know me. And
That's because they have a sign that says "Don't let Rita in here."
yeah.
No.
Well, you know, I just say things like, "Oh, you're still selling that," and that's okay. I'm not going to complain about it. Well, that's kind of a complaint, but it just isn't a really good plant for your landscape.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
What do we have over here?
Over here, we just have some pretty plants that I wanted to put out. They wanted to come out and say hello this morning. We have some scale stem, Carolina scaly stem.
Oh,
Really
there it is.
pretty. Just has basal leaves. This is how tall it gets. Tiny little white leaves. White leaves are very, very
You
difficult
know, and a
to...
lot of people would just say, "Hey, that's a weed."
Yes, because it does look like something that will come up in your yard, and it does have yellow flowers, and that is a
plantain.
weird. That is a weed. And this one is columbine. The flowers are a little off color because they're kind of gone by, but this plant is very sturdy. It will stay out all winter long. It has very, very fluffy leaves, and I would think it would have froze, but it never did. Even when it was, I think it was like 18 degrees here for a couple of days
See,
in
I
a row.
think some people are surprised to find out that we can have columbine. We do have native Floridian columbine because I think they associate that more with up north or out west or.
Typically, it's not advertised for Central Florida. It is more of a northern plant, but it doesn't seem to mind it here. And I started growing it. It was given to me by a dear friend who is no longer with us, so
Yeah.
I keep it growing.
I've seen it growing many other places.
Oh yeah, it's really pretty, and the hummingbirds like it. So.
Mhm. What else do we have? Oh,
This
there-
is that's my sign. My
Yes.
sign. You got my sign up
I
there.
did.
Yeah. This one is a coral bean. Coral bean has thorns. It'll get however tall it wants to if it's really happy where it is. It has these beautiful red tubular flowers on it that the hummingbirds love. And then after the flowers are done blooming, then the leaves come out, which are really shaped pretty. And then it puts out these pods once the flowers go by, and it has these red seeds in it that are toxic. So if you have little children or dogs around, you want to make sure that they don't get into those. They come up really easy if you want to grow some. If you get some seeds, you want to scarify the seed, meaning you want to make a little nick in the shell, soak them overnight, and then they come up really fast.
And
I
they
know.
look best. Well, this one is great. How bushy it is
Mm-hmm.
in the pot. When they get in the ground, they get kind of long and stringy. So they look good when there's several of them, I think.
Yes,
together.
and they do need to be pruned. They would need to be pruned in order to keep them under control. The next one is Carolina jessamine or yellow jessamine. There's no flowers on it now because it blooms in the winter.
It does. Yes.
It blooms January and February. We have it up in all of our trees, and there's a beautiful yellow flower on it. Really pretty. And it's a vine, so it will go wherever it wants to. Vines are naughty. This one is a native azalea. It's the pinkster azalea. It has beautiful pink flowers on it.
So that blooms at the same time the other azaleas.
Blooms
February, March?
It
or-
blooms early, and actually mine bloomed like twice. I'm not sure if it's supposed to do that. It bloomed twice, and it was gorgeous. I have one up in the butterfly garden up on the hill, and I have a butterfly garden out and back with one, and they both bloomed at the same time, but the one up on the hill bloomed a second time.
So what do the native azalea flowers look like as compared to the ones we're used
I
to?
think they're more like tubular.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't think they're
They're not as full looking.
No,
yeah.
no. There's
But-
a lot of them in the cluster, but they're I know they're more open.
But the pollinators recognize these better than they do our. I mean, our azaleas are beautiful. I mean, I love
But they don't.
our azaleas. That's my favorite time of year. But they're not huge pollinator attractors.
I'm not sure if I've seen anything except bees on the flowers for this one, but hey, that's fabulous.
Absolutely.
This is mimosa. This is a ground cover. It has a beautiful little pink flower on it when it blooms. And part of my front lawn is all mimosa. These beautiful, they look
Powder
like a
puff
Dr.
flowers.
Seuss flower.
Yeah.
but-
We'll go look at them.
Yeah. We haven't mowed, so we have all kinds of other things in there as well. But you're not supposed to mow it when it's blooming. Otherwise, you'll cut off your seeds for the following season.
This is not to be confused with the invasive mimosa tree.
Right. Oh, my goodness, no. The other one back here, I think I just put it back here just to join the crowd. It's a red bud.
Oh, I love the red buds.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. They're pretty when they
I'm
bloom.
kind of afraid, though, that they're along with the dogwoods. I think it's getting a little too hot in Central Florida for them, you know, and if you're listening from Jacksonville or even Marion County, you can probably do better with those. There were years, I mean, when all the azaleas were blooming, all of the dogwoods and redbuds were too, but I'd say in the past decade, they're kind of going downhill.
They are, and we've been using them in Central Florida as a replacement for the jacaranda, which really doesn't grow here, and it is a pretty tree.
It's called redbud, but they're really like this color, the purple.
Yes, actually they are.
Yeah.
Yes, that's funny.
So
Maybe it's the leaf.
because horticulturally speaking, there's only like red, blue. There's very few colors, so they name anything sort of like that color.
Right. This is skullcap, scudelaria. When I love the scientific name, I always
Yes.
say it because it's scudelaria. It's really pretty. This is the time of year it blooms. It'll be blooming for a few months now, and you can grow it from seed. You'd let these seeds get mature before you take off any seed pods. That's the most important thing. It's a really pretty plant. I love it. And the more sun it gets, the leaves get a really purpley color on them. They're really pretty.
Almost look kind of snapdragon-y.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Yeah.
That's a really pretty plant. The next one is my all-time favorite. Dr. Walter Kingsley Taylor loves green eyes. They are endemic.
Which one are we looking at? Okay, here.
This the yellow
Yes,
one. They
yes,
are
yes.
endemic to Florida. They don't grow anywhere else.
These are the tallest Florida green eyes I've ever seen, I think.
They can get like that. I had some in the ground out and back that got that tall.
Wow. Mine in the Royal Highlands there in the sand get to be, 9 inches or so.
Oh, and that's fine too. That's fine too. The blue curls out and back actually took over before I had a chance to pull them out, and I think they just crowded out my poor green eyes. But yeah, it is a beautiful plant, and if you have an area that's dry and sunny and you really don't know what to put there, that's a really beautiful plant.
It's funny because I have them in my yard and I did not put them there.
That happens.
There,
That
yes.
does happen. The seeds will fly off. The seeds are naughty. They will spread one way or another. I know some people say, "Oh yeah, I have that in my yard, whatever the plant is," and I say, "Well, it's not. You know, it's a Category 1 invasive," and they'll say, "But it hasn't gone anywhere."
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to have coming up in July, it's called Seductive Invaders. And, well, the picture is of our favorite Mexican petunia. But I run into so many people, some of them even related to me, that, well, they're so pretty. Well, they don't bother me. Well, but it goes beyond you. And it's an ecological you know, it disrupts the entire system.
It
Our native
absolutely does.
animals need the native plants in order to survive.
Yep, absolutely. And that last one back there is an oak leaf hydrangea.
Well, that's one of my favorites.
I love the shape of the leaves, I love the flowers, and I love that it grows in the shade.
Yes.
It loves
has
it in the shade.
Big white flowers.
White flowers that turn
White
a,
hydrangea flowers.
turn a rusty color.
Yeah.
And-
They're kind of more tubular shaped than the round snowballs we're
Yes.
used to up north.
Yes.
But I don't know why, because it's not in the azalea or rhododendron family, but something about these remind me of the mountain laurels. And you know, maybe just the way they grow in the shade or something.
Yeah, it could be. Could be. And yet there was a huge one out in front of the office at the Pasco extension office growing in full sun for the longest time. I went there for classes back in 2003 when I first started to be a master gardener. And I said, I thought that didn't grow in the sun. And we just decided it didn't know what it was supposed to be.
It hadn't read the books.
It didn't read the book, and if you look at 5 different books for things about plants likes, you might find 5 different answers. Yes, it loves full sun. Stokes Aster says full sun, and no, by the afternoon it wants some shade. So you have to really research them. I only know them because I've grown them, and I know that what their needs are now.
And they may act different in different locations.
They
too.
do. They do. If a plant is happy.
Yeah. And like what we don't think of is we categorize plants as, you know, even this Florida green eyes, there might be actually different varieties that are slightly bit different compared, because they've adapted to where they're growing.
There actually is one. Someone from Citrus Native Plants showed it to me a couple of weeks ago when I went up to her house. The leaves are shaped much differently. And it has kind of the same flowers. So I was researching that right now. I'm not going to start any of it, but it's just interesting to know.
Here's Rita's information while we're.
Florida
That's
native.
Grant Rita 209 at gmail.com. It's a little hard to read through here. It's
It's because
going
the
through
sun came through.
Yeah.
Yes, and you found my oops on the back.
GRANTRITA 209 at gmail.com. She can answer a lot of your questions. If you want to make an appointment, come see her nursery, you can do that as well.
Because she loves to talk about plants. And like I had said before, Florida Native Plant Society, a very, very important organization.
Yes.
Who does lots of good work with native plants. FNPS.org. At Florida Association of Native Nurseries. If
Yes.
you want to find a native nursery in your area, that's a good one too.
Yeah, for all of you who are not listening from Hernando County.
Right.
And even here in Hernando County, sometimes you got to make a day trip of it to find some nice native plants. There's a nice nursery, Green Isle in Groveland.
Yes.
And you would have to call them because I don't know what hours they're operating right now. Sometimes it's fun to make a day trip of it. When things get back to normal, whenever that is, I bet you the Native Plant Society here will hold another native plant sale. They tried really, really, really hard on March 21st. They're holding out to the very end. They were going to do it, but the city of Brooksville shut them down. So where they were going to hold it. So as soon as all these restrictions are lifted, I'm sure there'll be another plant sale with different native nurseries available. And, you know, then that's the time to go out and grab up a lot of these native plants,
We
too.
sure will. Florida Wildflower Foundation, Florida Source for Seeds. It's very important if you want to find seeds for something, don't order them from a company that's in Michigan because they have different needs because they grew the plants in Michigan. So you really need to get a Florida source for seeds. And FloridaWildflowers.com is perfect.
You can find milkweed seed there, too.
Absolutely. I have bought seeds from them for years, and I always have a really high germination rate on their seeds. I've never been disappointed. Of course, once I grow something, I collect my own seeds
Right.
to save money.
Now, Wildflower to them does not necessarily indicate native. But so you have, if you're trying to be 100% native, just know your natives, you know,
Right.
when you order them. Because they have a lot of the roadside phlox, which there are native varieties of, but the ones we see
Yeah.
are our they're Texas
Texas.
cousins.
Texas.
And I
phlox.
still think they're wonderful. Look at the butterfly by Rita.
Oh, there's a lot of those long wings out there today.
Should we take a walk into your nursery?
We
while
can
we're-
do that. Just watch your step. There's a little hill here.
Yeah, that wouldn't look good on film
If you
rolled
fell
down
down,
the hill. Yeah.
no, that wouldn't look good at all. There's the scorpion tail. This is how pretty it looks when it turns into a lovely shrub. And I have butterflies over it all day long. And the cardinal flower, which isn't happy in those pots at all.
I bet you're anxious for the rains to get started.
Yes, yes. I come out faithfully every morning and water so that we're not drooping. We've got some beautiful
What kind
Rudbeckia,
of system do you have?
hand system with watering cans.
There we go. Woohoo, rain barrels.
Yes, I have 5, I believe, and I use all of them. Beach sunflower.
Beach sunflower. I was telling Rita before we started, and mine doesn't get this tall. I swear things grow bigger here than closer to the Gulf where I live. I have this, and I had it as my front bed for many, many years, but I'm not sure it's going to want to come back. We'll see, like around July or August, because I keep mulching that bed, and I think it's getting mad at me. It wants, you know, not great soil. It's called beach sunflower. It
For a reason.
It wants sand. I've tried to transplant some just yesterday evening without much hope, because I'm never good. I mean, I'm not successful at transplanting these. They are successful at putting themselves where they want to be.
Mm-hmm.
But since I was pruning it away from that tiny area that used to have the Mexican petunia, and it grows all over the sidewalk, I'm like, well, again, these are free. It doesn't hurt anything to try and stick these roots in the ground elsewhere.
Definitely. Definitely.
Got beautyberry poking through.
Well, this came up all by itself. I didn't plant it there, so I just let it go. It makes a nice little shady area for some of the plants.
Yeah, and firecracker.
Which isn't native, but the hummingbirds don't know the difference.
It's going to have little red tubular flowers all over it eventually. Here's
Yes.
one way down here. They're usually covered. And we see this a lot, like in commercial parking lots and commercial building landscapes. This is a good Florida-friendly plant.
It is. It is.
And here's our Florida-friendly skunk vine.
Where?
See, everyone. Oh, that's not.
No.
Oh, okay, sorry. What is this?
This is a non-native bleeding heart.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah. It came up all on its own as well. I'm not sure. Sometimes people give me plants, and I take them and I give it a wait and see what it does. And this one's days are numbered because it's going everywhere now. And it doesn't seem to be very friendly to any of the butterflies. So,
More milkweed?
no, this is yellow top.
Yellow top, okay.
That blooms later, and it's gorgeous, and it's just clusters of yellow flowers all over. It's beautiful. This is my elderberry. It came up on its own as well.
That is a native.
Yep, it's just done blooming.
Are you going to get berries or?
Yeah,
the
it
birds
is. They're
get them?
starting to come out now. The bees loved it when it was in full bloom. The bees were all over it, so I love that because it draws them into the garden.
Yeah. So you don't get the berries to make any wine or anything.
No, I don't do that.
The birds do it.
I let other people. This is kind of a little nursery area.
The nursery of the nursery.
Yeah.
The babies.
And one of them needs some water quickly. I must have missed it.
Hear all the birds.
Oh, this is beautiful. This rosinweed is blooming. and it's got some bees on it. That's cool.
This is rosin weed. Oh, look at the bees.
Oh, there's another
3. Wow.
Oh,
You didn't want that one,
okay. Lucky
did you?
me.
Hiding over here. There we go. So you can all, there's room for everybody.
They're so cute. This is another of the passion vines. This is a corky stem. Leaves are shaped differently.
What do the flowers look
The
like?
flowers are very tiny and inconspicuous. They're almost
okay.
like green, so you really don't notice them. And the whatchamacallits are beautiful. Oh, that one still has a butterfly in it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The chrysalis.
I will just put you right back here because that is their favorite. They love that.
Probably because it is inconspicuous. So it's
Yeah.
a good hiding place.
It is. It is. And this is my hibiscus, my scarlet hibiscus. It blooms late.
That's the same as a swamp.
Yeah,
Hibiscus.
it needs lots of water. If it doesn't get enough water, it will just drop over
And
dead.
it's a native hibiscus, so its flowers are red, but they're not like the hibiscus we're used to. They're more of succinct petals, but they're just gorgeous.
The flower looks like satin when it blooms. It's so beautiful.
So if you happen to have a wet area, you know, all hibiscus are mallows, so they are literally marsh mallows. So
We aren't happy
they like
being
the
in a
wet.
pot.
They like, if you happen to have a wet, low area, it'd be a great plant to put there. Do they like the shade or the sun?
Oh, they like the sun.
Okay.
They like the sun. As long as they're in wet area, they'll stay blooming all day long. This is all milkweed. These were for the plant sale. That
Oh.
didn't happen. So that's why I'm overstocked right now. I got a call from the Department of Agriculture, and he was going to come out and he couldn't come out and inspect because of the problems we're having. So he called and he wanted to know if I had any changes or increase in the number of plants. And I said, well, absolutely, because. So he said, well, everyone is saying the same thing. All the nurseries have more plants than usual because of what's going on.
That's
so
Stephen, right?
yes,
He's a
Stephen.
very nice guy.
Oh, he is an awesome person. He really is. And he keeps me on my toes when he does come here as far as, what's this? What's this?
More salvia.
Oh, yes, it's
Sage.
everywhere. It's everywhere in the yard because of the hummers and the butterflies.
There's-
This milkweed had all been eaten down.
Oh my.
There was caterpillars all over it, and all I had in the pots were sticks. And it came back within 3 weeks. And I wouldn't be surprised if, oh, hello. I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't happen again.
But you don't panic when it's all eaten down.
Well, no, because I know some people do. They say, I put in a butterfly garden, and now sometimes they say worms,
Oh my.
caterpillars eating all my plants, and we're like,
Well, that's the point.
yay,
Yay.
good for
Yes.
you. And then you explain, and they say, oh, okay.
But some who are trying to rear monarchs will panic to go out to try and find more milkweed, more milkweed, more milkweed, and you know, you want to keep the monarchs so safe, and you want to do it inside. But I think outside is better. Yes, you're going to lose some to wasps or other things, but you know what? It's all part of the circle of life. And once they eat what's available, then they need to go on and find it elsewhere.
Yep, they do.
Because if you run to the big box store to try and feed them, I've had someone who had that happen. They ran to the big box store to make sure they had more milkweed for their caterpillars, and the next day every single one of them were dead because of the systemic pesticide in that in the plants they bought.
It's so sad. These people were heartbroken
Yes.
when they called to tell me what happened. And I said, I think I mentioned that at one point. And they said, yeah, I know, but I thought it was okay. You know, because they get hungry.
Right.
I used to get like that myself. Nowadays, I just say, that's all I have once it's gone.
Mm-hmm. It's nature. Yeah.
It is. Sometimes nature can be cruel.
We
but
wanna-
we don't have to add to it.
We want to help because we've messed things up, But then sometimes we mess things up trying to help. So it's a lot of times let nature take care of nature. Put the native plants out there for sure. Have more of those, but then don't try to micromanage your native garden.
Yeah, let a few dead flowers sit there. I know some people go out and cut it off immediately, but that's your seed source for the next season. And if you chop them all off, then you're not going to have any flowers for the next season. You're going to have to buy them over again. And if you're rich, that's cool. But I don't like to waste money. So I just leave them. You just leave like for this one, you would leave this whole stalk on there until it turns brown. And then you cut it off. And your little seeds are in it. And they are minuscule. They're so tiny. And then you can put the seeds somewhere else. I don't know what that is.
Looks like a tiny little dragonfly of some sort. I don't think you could see it on the film.
It's really cute. I'd have to catch it and send a picture to Dr. Lester.
Yes. I had a mosquito friend sitting on top of the iPad here for quite a while, enjoying your talk.
Oh.
Shall we go see your mimosa, sunshine mimosa
Yes.
lawn?
And like I said, it hasn't been mowed because of the flowers, and the seed pods take a while to come up. Those are my Gloriosa lilies. Not native, but somebody had given me one, and I don't know what happened, but it's coming up all over the place now. And oh, there's some flowers out here. Yay!
Yeah.
There they are.
See, instead of a high maintenance lawn, she has this mimosa. She has a diverse lawn area like I do. I'm really happy to see your weeds because I have, I'm pushing it to say I have 50% bahia, 50% weeds. But what's interesting is I attended virtually an in-service from the University of Florida, you know, a train the trainer type thing.
Yeah.
And they had a whole section where I think it's Dr. Adam Dale and some of his grad students are actually testing. They have plots of lawns that have weeds mixed in them. Like, well, some of them have the sunshine mimosa, some have frog fruit, other things, to see how well they do and how well they attract pollinators. And I was very excited because I'm like, that's my lawn right there.
Yeah.
Plenty of frog fruit I didn't put there. I think we're going to be leaning towards finding out the perfect turf grass is more harmful to the environment rather than just having some weeds and diversity.
Yep, there's a lot of different things in here that the pollinators come for. So I mean, it helps to let it go like this once in a while. We don't live in a community where we would get in trouble, so.
Yes, as you can see.
Right.
Why we can't get a signal. Beautiful woods out here.
It is, it's gorgeous, and it has all native plants growing in it. I really never had to do anything around the sides. I just put in a few things, but everything's native.
Let's talk about, since we were talking about invasives, what about the invasive lantana? What do you have to say about that?
Lantana camara is the one that you see growing at the side of the road all the time. The butterflies do love it, and I know of a couple of native plant people who have it in their yard and refuse to get rid of it. It spreads, and it comes up like wildfire, and it's my understanding if it comes up in a pasture, it's poisonous to cattle.
It is the bane of
horses.
ranchers, for sure.
Yes, so they have to really get that out of there. The best thing to do is not buy it. I've seen it in every big box store that I've been in. They're selling that particular species. There is native lantana that you can get at the native nurseries, or sometimes other nurseries are branching out now and they're having a native plant section. So definitely there's one up in Citrus County, and of course I mentioned it and then I can't remember the name of it, but there is one up there and
Color
it has
Country?
native plants. No, it's not that one. It's Anson's, I
Oh,
think.
on 19.
Yes, and they've put in a large native plant section, so that is fantastic. Because they're seeing a lot of people are coming in and saying, I'd like to buy some native plants. So they're like, oh, we'll get some native plants, which is perfect.
Well, I've heard through circles, anyway, their designer is someone I don't know personally, but I know people who know him, and he went through same college training I did in Ocala, and he also is very familiar with what Florida friendly means. So.
Yeah. And that's fantastic, because somebody like that won't sell Mexican petunias anymore. You know, there's so many good reasons for that. And definitely go to these places and buy things from them, and it will contribute and make them continue to do this and take care of our poor landscapes.
Yes. Okay, I think we've covered
I think
a lot
we have.
of things.
Thank you for coming out today, Lily.
No, thank you for inviting me.
Anytime.
And I'm sorry again that we couldn't make it absolutely live, but you know, she's got this beautiful woodland place, and technology hasn't quite caught up yet, but we'll make sure we post this right at 9 o'clock on Wednesday.
Doesn't catch up.
Yeah, she loves it out here, and I love coming out
We do.
to see all our butterfly friends and all the other pollinators. Thank you, Rita,
You're
and
welcome.
thank you, everyone.